You're welcome back. Well, the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria is asking the government not to overlook the impacts of new taxes that it will have on businesses in its quest to increase revenues. So, should the government balance revenue generation and taxing businesses? Well, we have Larry Afoye, manager at Anderson, Nigeria, to have this conversation with us. Good morning, Larry, and compliments of the season.
Thanks for having me.
So let's do a little bit of a review of 2021 and see some of the new ideas and some of the high points when it comes to government tax policy initiatives in the year 2021 from your perspective.
Yeah, thanks once again for having me. So we opened the year with the enactment of the Finance Act 2020, which was basically the government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as continuing with the annual tradition of enacting the Finance Act along the Appropriation Act for each year. So that happened. The bill was signed by the president on 31st December 2019. 2020, and effective 1st January 2021. So there were some incentives such as reduction of minimum tax rates and the likes, and then also some provisions to address what happens when you make some COVID-19 related donations. And then in March, or sometimes around March, the FRS deployed the Tax Pro Max solution, which is basically a platform where taxpayers can log on and file their taxes. So you no longer need to visit the FRS physically to submit tax returns. You can, at the comfort of your office or your home, you can just log on and upload all tax returns. Then sometimes around June, the Federal High Court issued what is called the practice directions. So the idea is to leverage technology to administer justice faster. So they don't want the idea of tax cases staying so long, for several years in court without being resolved. So the idea is to make the process faster and more efficient. And then the Tax Appeal Tribunal rules were also released by the Minister of Finance with similar provisions, basically trying to leverage technology to make tax dispute resolution faster. And then sometimes in August, the president signed the Petroleum Industry Act, which was a long-awaited bill. We've been waiting for over a decade for that bill to be signed. But finally, the president signed it in August, and it's effective in less than 18 months from now. And it provides a lot of groundbreaking changes to the administration, the governance, as well as the fiscal framework for operators in the oil and gas sector. Then around October, the Minister of Finance issued the VAT modification order, which basically modifies the list of items exempt from VAT in Nigeria. Then in December, the president transmitted the Finance Bill 2021 to the National Assembly. And as we speak, the bill has been passed by both houses, and we expect that the harmonized version will be signed by the president anytime from now. So that's what has happened in 2021 in a nutshell.
All right, and then also in this year, we still had the conversation of multiple taxation. For instance, there have been issues of the signage levies, there's mobile adverts, there are charges that you pay to the states, you pay to the local government, to regulatory agencies. Did we have any positive to record in the area of dealing with the issue of multiple taxation in 2021?
Well, unfortunately, the answer is no. Multiple taxation is still there. As we speak, based on a report by the World Bank, I think Nigeria, the number of taxes payable in Nigeria is currently about 48. When you look at a country like South Africa, we are talking about 7 taxes If you go to Morocco, you are talking about 6 taxes only. But in Nigeria, you get to pay a lot. You pay your normal income tax, and then companies have to pay signage levies and all of that, like you have said. And then there are all sorts of things like when you talk about compliance for companies, the burden is still very high because it's not just about the amount of taxes to be paid now, but how do you comply? How do you keep track with all these taxes? Because, of course, there could be significant penalties for non-compliance. So the issues are still there. And based on the national tax policy, which has not been fully implemented, the government was trying to harmonize the number of existing taxes and make them broad-based, and then make sure we're able to utilize them sufficiently and not go about enacting new tax laws and all of that. So unfortunately, that has not yet been fully implemented, and the issue of multiple taxation is still here with us for now.
And then we have excise duty on carbonated drinks. The conversation also started this year, and there's been a lot of pleads with the government not to reintroduce it because it might lead to massive job loss. But why do you think the government is bringing this up again? What are some of the advantages of this excise duty?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I mean, just to provide a brief perspective around excise duties. So it's basically a tax payable by local manufacturers of certain items. Currently, it's payable on tobacco, it's payable on alcohol as well. And then before now, it was payable on a lot of products, but in June 2009, the government removed excise duties in response to the world trade crisis, the global financial crisis in 2008. So it's interesting that the government is trying to bring it back now. I'm aware that the Nigerian Customs Service believes a whole lot of taxes can be collected if the government focuses on this area. So that's one advantage. I'm looking at it from the tax collection perspective. And of course, in trying to, some say, I mean, that carbonated drinks could be injurious to our health. So this could be a way to discourage the consumption of these items. But at the same time, when you look at the ripple effects that this could have, you would find that perhaps the government should retain what we have now, which is the exemption of these items from excise duties. So just to explain that further, the demand for carbonated drinks is quite elastic, which means consumers can actually do away with those things. So what happens is when the government imposes excise duties on carbonated drinks, there's that potential that consumers will shy away from these drinks. And then, of course, the companies get to report lower revenue. And when they do that, they get to charge and pay lower VAT. And then, of course, when it's time to file income tax returns, due to the lower revenue, the income tax payable will also be impacted. So we shouldn't just focus on the part of generating revenue from excise duties, knowing fully well that if we stick to the tax perspective, there's that chance, there's that risk that it's going to impact tax collection in the area of VAT and CIT. And of course, when there's no demand for these products, the producers or manufacturers would have to scale down production. And when they do that, it could only mean one thing, retrenchment of workers. And when that happens, for a country where the unemployment rate is already very high, and then the payee collected by the states on the income of those factory workers would also be, the government would not be able to collect payee anymore. So there is a very significant ripple effect that we need to think about before we talk about imposing the excise duties. I think what the government needs to do is to continue to engage the industry operators to look for ways around this thing.
Exactly, because I was going to ask that where do we get a balance? Because obviously, paying of tax is a necessity. You know, the government needs its own source of revenue and all that. But how do you now balance that with not scaring away investors or like, you know, the picture you just painted now? You know, when you now reduce production, unemployment increases, even the VAT that the government should collect also reduce. So how do we balance it really?
Yeah, so the idea is to expand what we call currently collect from taxes. So we shouldn't be talking about introducing new taxes. Like I said, we currently have about 48 taxes, one of the highest in the world. So we should be talking about harmonizing taxes and not imposing a new tax all over again. So in the quest to generate revenue, we need to think about it carefully because on one hand, you are talking about collecting excise duties. On the other hand, you are probably going to lose revenue from CIT and VAT as well. So it's about trying, to expand the current tax net. I know tax professionals keep saying that all over again, but it looks like the government is still not addressing this issue completely. The idea is to expand the tax net. Currently, we always talk about the tax to GDP ratio that has stayed at 6% for several years now. The idea is to leverage technology, expand the tax net, then encourage voluntary compliance. If you want to encourage compliance, you shouldn't have 48 taxes in existence. We should streamline those taxes, reduce them, and then make sure we're able to collect them as much as possible from the existing companies and even from those that are yet to be captured in the tax net.
All right. Thank you so much, Lanre Afe, manager at Anderson, Nigeria, for helping us see how we can get a balance between revenue generation and taxation. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you.